You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Hour, the show that brings you unfiltered stories and insight from the Twin Cities real estate world with your hosts, Chris Rooney, broker at RE/MAX Preferred, and Andy Prasky, leader of the Preferred Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Hola.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello.
We have a better looking Andy Prasky online here.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's weird. Maybe, Allie Maurer is a psychic medium that I ran into at a parking lot at Lowe's about 3.5 years ago, and paid her some money in the parking lot. And then I did a call with her from Arizona, and I've been with her ever since, from a psychic life coach medium situation. And I was always kind of like, hey, Andy, I'm giving my key to success right now.
Hey, Allie probably predicted I was going to be late.
She did. She did. Trust me, she's talked about you a lot. But anyways,
Good.
yeah. But so anyways, no, but kind of do more of the life coaching, and she was really good enough to be able to come on here and hang out with us and maybe talk a little bit about like the energy of a home. Sometimes you're feeling like, oh my God, there's something about this house that I just don't like, whether that's haunted or, there's some energies. And Allie, why don't you hit on that a little for us?
Yeah, well, first, thanks so much for having me on your show. This is always a lot of fun to do these, and so thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Houses, as you guys know, very obviously, is people's biggest investments. And so I get a lot of people asking questions about their home, a lot of stories about people's homes. This is where you want to feel safe. This is where you raise your family. It's where you spend all your time. So, you want it to feel as good as possible. And from everywhere from when you're looking for homes to actually being in a home, there's a lot you can tell and a lot you can do to make it feel as good as possible. So when you're looking at homes, a lot of people will just know a home isn't right. They'll just walk in, it'll look perfect, but they can just tell. And then they kind of argue with themselves, and you're like, oh, it ticks off all the boxes, but like, why don't I want to live here? And I always say, trust that, if it's just like, there's nothing wrong with it, but I just don't, want to live here. I don't know why. That can just be your intuition being like, this isn't the right place. But as far as bad energy of houses go, where you're in somebody else's home, you're in your own home, and it just feels like you're being watched. It just doesn't feel good to be there. You feel sick more than you feel well when you're there, which can be a number of normal reasons as well. But yeah, sometimes people just don't feel good in places. And there can be a lot of different reasons for that. From the house itself just isn't great. The land that it was built on has a lot of either negative energy or just not positive energy, or was never really meant to be built on and lived in by people. And, it can be residual energy. So if there was a lot of negative things that happened in the house or on the land before somebody moved in, if the previous owners had abusive relationships or just a lot of negativity or a lot of drug use in the house, that can lead to it feeling really negative, really stuffy, no matter how much you try to clean or open the windows. Feelings of, and that's more the residual energy, which you can just do a house clearing. They're very easy to do. I teach people how to do them. You don't need to hire somebody to come out and do it. But that alone can just make it feel warmer, airier, brighter. Your house, even if there's not a ton of natural light, when you walk in and it feels good, it should feel bright. It should feel airy. It should feel warm. If it doesn't, then it just might need a clearing. And, houses, no matter how long people live in them, they should just have a clearing every once in a while, because life happens. People get sick. There's stress. So that can really make your house feel as good as home. Some houses, they can be haunted. I've run into that, from just unconscious kind of spirits that really don't know they're deceased, to negative energies, to really dark stuff. And that can be pretty, terrifying for people, but it's pretty, as much as people try to rationalize it, you check off all the lists. Okay, it's not the pipes, it's not this, it's not that. People think they're going crazy. They're like, at night I see things are watching me, and they feel like there's nowhere to turn. Those that stuff does happen. It doesn't happen as much as we see in the movies and the, Hollywood has us believe, but it's also not that uncommon. For it to be something really bad is pretty uncommon. For it to just be something that just needs some help getting it out, that can just make you feel uncomfortable or like you're being watched. That's pretty easy to do too.
Yeah, it's interesting. We I know I do some new construction, and we have some of the nationalities will come in with different beliefs than what we commonly see here, where they want the door to be a certain way so the energy can flow, or the spirit of prosperity can come their way. And you want to sit there and from a real estate perspective, you're like, hey, it's checking all the boxes. It's got the bedrooms, it's got the bathrooms, it's everything you've been looking for. It's in your price range. Why aren't you guys pulling the trigger? Or I've had other families where they're superstitious with the numbers of the house, and it has to equal an even number. Or so there's a lot of different respects throughout the world for different energies and houses, and what that is or isn't, I can't tell you. But lastly, I'll comment on is that when we used to sell back in the housing crisis, we were selling foreclosures. That was a negative vibe on these houses. And there was the sense of distress and that somebody lost this house, and that there was people really struggled. I'm telling you, Allie, they felt guilty buying the house at prosperity at someone else's demise. And it was very evident that these people were like, how do I make myself feel better about it? Even though my family needs a house, and, I didn't put those people in that position, but I don't want to profit from their lots. You know what I mean? It was, anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of people come in with those kinds of ideas and those kinds of hang-ups about their house too, where they come in and they're just like, I have all this guilt, or I have all this, all these feelings about a house. A house can bring up so many feelings, more so than buying a car or something else. But feng shui, doing things like that in a house, where people talk about the door being at a certain place and having a certain amount of windows, can be incredibly beneficial for the energy of the house. That stuff really does work. Most other cultures have a lot of beliefs. Some are superstitious, but some are like actual beliefs. And in the Western culture, we just don't recognize that stuff. We don't look as everything as being energy. We don't look at psychics and mediums necessarily as being real, where other cultures, it's just very normal. You have somebody in the community that is your person, your psychic medium. You have these things that about what the house that you need to live in, or the house that you're going to live in, the things that it needs to have to be a really good match for your family. And it's just very common knowledge of how to do that. And we just don't have, we've lost that in sort of our culture. But again, there are a lot of things you can do, from house clearings to taking care of yourself. Like, you wouldn't imagine, once people just start taking care of themselves, how the energy of their house change, and their family taking care of themselves, how the house is impacted. Everything, every item, every physical thing holds energy. It has its own energy, but it stores memory of energy, and houses really, really store that energy in them. So for people, whether it's doing feng shui, having a house clearing, doing something themselves, some people like to put a lot of like crystals and that kind of thing in their house to kind of clear up that energy and that frequency. Doing air cleansings, other people know that as smudging. That can be really beneficial. But again, there's a lot of things you can do yourself. You can hire people to come in and do it for you too. But you don't need to do that. There's a lot of really positive things. Even just putting a lot of plants in your house can make a big difference, because that really can change the energy of the house. But there's a lot of emotion that goes into that. And especially during times when they can feel bad about how they got the house, or a lot of foreclosures between the new owners, maybe feeling bad that they're kind of profiting off of that, or the old owners, all of that negative energy of losing their house, the shame, the guilt, all the negative energy around that can really affect a house and the energy of it too.
What about like a house where there's been a crime, for an example? Like, I know there was one over here in Dayton a couple years ago where the husband murdered the wife, and nobody wanted this house. I mean, it was on a beautiful acreage, beautiful house, and the bank just kept dropping in price. And finally, a young guy bought it, and the neighbor that I know, the neighbor was like, "Hey, yeah, who cares, man? Whatever. The past is the past," and doesn't acknowledge or act. But I'm like, man, that I even for me, I'm a little skeptical of, I keep myself away from emotions a lot of times. I do more of the black and white, helping people buy, and here's a checklist, and here's right. But I'm like, man, how can someone buying a house like that, how do they even know that there's a potentially an issue with energy or spirits or whatever, you're saying?
The more open that people are, the more they're going to feel that energy or something's off or something's not right. People that aren't as in tune with their intuition, they're going to go in and not even know anything's going on. My husband, he's not into any of the spiritual stuff, but his just being around me, his intuition has grown over the years, and we'll walk into a house where before, when we were looking at the house I'm in now, there were a couple of houses he's like, I am not staying here. I would not. I'm like, no, these like old 1800s, like Victorian houses. I'm like, no, I want to live here. And he's like, you're on your own. Like, I'm not living here. But so if you are in tune, you're going to feel that more. And it can be a mental thing of how it affects you, of knowing that happened in the house that you can't get over. But yeah, there's probably, if there's been a crime like that, there's probably going to be some residual energy, which might just be residual energy of it just doesn't feel loving and happy, or it might be, something like a haunting. I was at a house recently that I was doing a psychic party at. So it was a family and a group of people, and their house was very, very haunted. And so the whole time I was there, there's all these different noises and the electronics going off, and they have this big, huge, heavy wooden door that I couldn't even open by myself. I'm like, is it locked? And she's like, no, I'll open it for you. But it blew open by itself. There was no wind that day, and it just came open, this heavy wood door. And they're like, this is, she's like, there's stuff going on in our house all the time, but it's definitely worse right now when you're here. And we started talking about, they knew the history of it, but they asked me what I could pick up. And during like the 1920s, the guy that leased the land there, he actually killed his wife and his kids because they couldn't make it, like, financially. And so their family will see kids running through the woods on their property. They'll hear kids in the house. They'll feel like this guy watching them and see like shadows in the house. So that kind of stuff can stick with the house and the land. And again, it really just takes a clearing to get rid of that. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't mean you have to sell your house. Although some people, even with a clearing, will be like, nope, like somebody else can deal with this problem. I want nothing to do with this. And that's fair. I don't have a problem with that stuff. I just go in and clear a house. So that stuff wouldn't deter me from buying a house. But for the average person, yeah, if you knew that was going on in a house, you probably wouldn't want to do that. So crimes can definitely impact. In different states, you are required to tell that. And in different states, you actually, whether it's the requirement or just the culture, Salem, Massachusetts, New Orleans, Louisiana, different places along the East Coast, they actually put haunted or not haunted on the listing. So you'll see the sign and there'll be a little sign hanging from it that says not haunted. And people kind of like, oh, that's just for the tourist kind of stuff. And people are like, no, they take it very seriously, the locals and stuff. And people want to know about that. Some people just like the history of the places, but some people want to know if there was a crime, if it is haunted. But yeah, you could definitely feel that energy if you're in tune, if there has been a crime committed. And there's been times when it hasn't been disclosed, and I'll walk into a house and I'll be like, yeah, this is there's some stuff here. And then you kind of look into the history and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, there was some stuff that isn't legally has to be disclosed, but that went on here.
Yeah. This last winter, I spent a lot of time in Cambodia and Thailand. And recently with the Khmer Rouge, they had a lot of killing fields where they killed, I think, 3 out of 8 million people, Cambodians. And you can still feel it everywhere. It's like permeated throughout the culture, especially in Phnom Penh, the capital. And like the difference between that city and like Siem Reap, which used to be the capital of the old Cambodian, the real Cambodian Khmer Empire, the vibe is totally different, right? And then I compare it to like now, I'm in Brazil, and like the curb appeal everywhere in Brazil is high walls with barbed wire everywhere, and like the New World, all the the killings that happened here, the diseases, obviously the crime rate in Brazil, and just the pieces of land and the overall vibe. There's definitely energy there. And I know, Chris, you were in Auschwitz. We went together in Poland, and like the air is thick there. It's no joke. So I find it interesting.
Yeah, people kind of poo-poo all of that, and it's like, no, even people that aren't in tune, you can tell when you go on old battlefields in the United States, or when you're going to places in other parts of the world where there's been a lot of catastrophe, tragedy. Like, it feels different. You can't necessarily put your finger on it, but there's a bad vibe, or it feels off in some way. It doesn't feel pleasant.
Yeah, it's a fun thing, and I've obviously been with you for a long time now, that I do get those feelings now. And whereas before it was kind of like, whatever, that's not really real, and people have said stuff, and then but now you can feel that stuff, and it's really very interesting, that's for sure. Elliot, quick question about how, for realtors that are listening, we get a lot of realtors that watch and listen to this podcast, and how do you think they can handle, almost basically improve their business, I guess, is what the best way that, I don't know, from an energy, or from a psychic, or from a, hey, here's what the market's going to be doing, here's what you should be doing kind of thing?
Yeah, I have a ton of clients that are real estate agents. So it's not weird to come to a psychic and get these tips. One, for everybody, improving your intuition. Everybody has intuition, and it guides you. So you just get these nudges, like, I just don't feel like these clients are going to be worth working with. Like, I know this is just going to not be pleasant for me, or I just know this house is not going to sell for this price, no matter how much logically I should be listing this house for. I just know it's not going to sell. So there's really easy ways to improve your intuition. Meditation is one of the best ways. But that is, one of the best ways to do it, because everything will just flow. You'll just know who to work with, who not to work with, what houses should be listed, what the market is going to do. Even if it's not illogical, I know the market's going to do this. You're just going to be like, yep, I just feel like I'm going to be really busy this spring. Like, I just need to get my vacation done before this, or this fall is going to be unusually slow. You'll just kind of have an inkling for that. But really just tuning in and not discounting anything. So again, that kind of works back with your intuition. But if you just get these feelings, just really trust that. And doesn't mean you always have to act on it, but at least take note of it. And then really, a lot of my clients that are real estate agents, they will develop their intuition, but they'll also do things that might help make other people feel at ease, whether they learn the basics of feng shui. So when somebody's in a house and they start talking about feng shui or where the windows can be, they can say something knowledgeable about, yeah, but you can do this. You can put something purple in the back corner to offset that, or to be able to help the clients do that themselves. Or being able to do house clearings. And that might not be for every client, but the ones that mention it are the ones that are like, I just feel like, I don't know, I just get a weird feeling. They can be like, hey, you know what, before you move in, we can just do a really brief clearing on this, or something that can help support the client and make the client feel better and more at ease about things. So a lot of people will start kind of getting into that, and just at least educating themselves on more of the energy and the frequency and the vibration of houses, of people, because there are more people open to this stuff than people realize, and that practice it on their own. So just being able to have that vocabulary and be able to articulate, how the client can improve their own situation, or how they can help, can make it a lot easier too. And yeah, just really with the markets and stuff, those aren't something, there's an essence of it that is predictable. But reality is created. It's not something that is, nobody can predict the future 100% of the time. I have a very good business and a good reputation, and I do a lot of times do that, but I never tell somebody I'm going to tell you what the future holds for sure. I'm going to, do all these predictions. We'll talk about the future, but it's more about how to create it. So it's looking less at the market and really tuning in with your own, with the best possible opportunities through using your vibration and your frequency. So I teach a lot of my real estate clients how to get rid of abundance blocks, how to get rid of any business blocks that stand in their way. That could be from subconscious types of situations that happen, traumas in the past that keep them from being as confident as they'd like to really be able to sell luxury homes. And then we'll go and we'll heal that and talk about that and get those blocks out of the way. But it's more, no matter what happens externally, we have more control over what happens than we realize. So there's people where no matter what the market does, their real estate business thrive. It doesn't matter if they're in a recession, they're making money hand over fist, they have a great reputation. And there's some people, even when the markets are fantastic, they have a lot of problems selling houses. And it seems like every house they sell, it's never smooth. Like there's, people back out, documents get lost, like something's always happening. And it's like, that's a you issue at that point. And there's a lot of probably some healing that needs to be done. There's a lot of whether you call it spiritual development, personal development. But once you remove those blocks that stand in your way, it's like everything just gets so much smoother. So it comes down to you more than it does the external markets and the external world. And that's really the difference between what happens with real estate, with any business. But when people come to me and they're like, gosh, how are these other people just killing it? I can't even get 5 houses in a month in the best market and everything goes wrong. It's like, well, that's a you issue. So then we just work on that. So if people are finding that they're having a lot of troubles and problems, it's like, okay, there's some things that need to be worked out. And I call them, energy blocks, but they're caused from a lot of different things, but usually a lot of, traumas or things that have conditioning, like family conditioning, cultural conditioning, that's happened in the past that has just stayed with them and become part of their identity without even knowing it.
It's interesting because I always, like, you were my little secret. I wouldn't tell anybody about you because I didn't want people to think I was crazy and wacko. And then now I share. Yeah, keep it watching, Andy. And how do you tell people, like, when you're dealing with these things and the feng shui and all that they don't look at you like you're nuts?
You have to kind of read the room. There's certain people where you don't have to bring that up with your clients. They're not gonna, that's not just gonna go well. They're not gonna be into it. And for those people, I would just hold back. So if you're talking about people working with clients, kind of read the room and, you can kind of drop hints about it, have you ever considered feng shui? And if somebody's like, nope, then okay. If they're not open to it, if they're like, well, no, I don't really know what that is. Then you can gently talk about that. If you're talking about me with clients of how to bring that up, once they come to me, they're pretty open. So I can pretty much bring up most of it. But yeah, you want to just work into it gently and just kind of see what they're open to, what they're not. Some people don't know anything about it, but they're like, hey, if I can get this house and feel great in it, like, I don't care what we do, like, do whatever you got to do. And that's fine. And other people, you're just like, yeah, we're just not going to brace the subject.
Yeah. Well, good. I know you have an appointment here coming up very soon. So we appreciate you on, and you're welcome anytime to predict how many houses Andy will sell this year. Maybe you have that. Do you know how many houses Andy will sell this year?
Yeah, we're not getting into that.
Hold on. I had something.
6,
7, 8.
I had something for Allie. I wanted to hear her thoughts on Andy and if he should do TikTok and if he will be successful with that. It's a running joke through the episode, but I want to read Andy if he should do it or not.
For some reason with Andy's TikTok, I see it being like, if he did that, it would be like a very silly, comical play on himself and what you guys are doing, kind of theme audience channel that kind of goes on, a very kind of comedic one. But I have a feeling that it might kind of be pulling him tooth and nail into doing it. Are you not real keen on doing TikTok, Andy?
Correct.
Yeah. There's a lot of resistance in your energy to doing TikTok. So it almost feels like it would have to be sort of this non-vulnerable, very silly, comedic, like, I'm just here to make people laugh, but maybe get a couple points across too, to kind of lighten the load, or lighten the room, I should say.
Surprised Nick doesn't have my ice cream truck video queued up.
I was gonna say, is there a certain piece of clothing or something that he would wear in each episode that would express his personality? Can you sense that?
A piece of clothing and
Something that he would have in each one that he would be known for, like something that he likes to wear, something that would give off the vibe that he has. We it's a joke between us. I want to see if you can get it.
do you wear a lot of like floral Hawaiian shirts or something very colorful?
I wear a lot of collars, not a ton, I guess. What do you guys? I don't understand what you're asking her.
I know what he's going to.
Oh,
So kind of floral. It kind of goes with the floral theme. Something that you would wear with floral.
Are you talking about my footwear?
Yeah.
Oh, do you wear a lot of like flip flops?
Yep, there it is. Yep.
Hawaiian theme, like a Hawaiian shirt, collared shirt, like flip flops, and just kind of like laid back, like going to the beach vibe.
And shorts and flip flops. Come on. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure, and I hope that was able to help your fellow real estate agents in some way.
Well, how do we get a hold of you if somebody wants to dial in with their energies and or whatever you were saying? How do they find you?
So my website is the best way, and that's just alliemaurer.com. So ALLIEMAURER.com. You can read about what I do. You can schedule appointments online. That's the main way right now. I do have a Facebook page, Instagram, but I'm not very active on social media anymore. You can read my Google reviews. I have over, I don't know, I think 87 5-star Google reviews. So people can read what other people have experienced with me as well, because it is kind of a weird category of service, and you do have to be really careful. And I do have on my YouTube channel a video, and I'll be adding more from my school onto YouTube to make them free. But how to avoid psychic scams and scam artists, because it is a fraudulent industry, and you have people that are really, really good, or people that are just out to take advantage of you. And it's an easy place for people to be taken advantage, because most people don't want to tell people they're going to a psychic and that they got scammed by one. So they just don't pursue any sort of, getting their money back or reporting it or anything. So people get away with it. But it's just like any other industry that, there's fraudulent roofers, there's fraudulent everything out there. So you just have to be educated. And so I have a video on that too on my YouTube channel. So that is the best way. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you put it up. So
awesome. Thank you, Allie.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Andy, those 87 reviews, I read every one of them because I thought I was part of a psychic scam. And so I had to find out if I was. So I had to go to a psychic to find out if I was part of that. And I'll never forget, because I'd never believed in that stuff. And just on a whim, we were doing, an event. And I'm like, hey, let's go to a psychic. And I was going to pay for my people to go. And then they said, well, you have to go too. And it was just really enlightening. And so I read like every review of that lady, because I was like, I got to know if this is the right person. And she lives kind of in the West.
You remember years ago, you and we were down in Las Vegas. We're at the Palms.
Oh, that's right.
And we were with Ryan and all those other guys. We were out for dinner at one of these fancy dinners, right? And then on the main floor, there was a psychic, and we're like, let's go. And
did we do cards? I think we did tarot cards or something.
Something like that, yeah. And then we did not. I don't think you and I. I don't know if you and I had our whatever they call that, predictions or whatever read, but my brother did.
Oh yeah, he was our life coach at the time. Yeah, we always gave him a hard time. But...
Well, I tell you what, you want to have a fun gig, Nick. You bring your buddy along, and you go to like one of these business conferences, and you say, "Yeah, I brought along my life coach just to make sure I'm making all the right decisions while I'm out here." And people are like, "Oh my God, that's so positive. That is such an aggressive way to be good." And I'm like, this is my stupid brother. That's why he smells like whiskey. He's over there going, hey, what's up?
Yeah. No, he played along with it great, because it moved into he was my life coach as well. Yeah. So we both had life coaches.
I was just looking at my office, because I used to have a picture of him where he was sitting by, there was a sign that said soup of the day is whiskey, and he's going. Anyway.
Hi guys. Hey, that was a lot of fun, but let's get into some real estate stuff. So we have Minnesota Real Estate Journal. They name their Minnesota City of the Year. I want to hear your thoughts on this, but first it's going to be brought to you by Chris Rooney, Home Experts.
I was just 1 year old when my family started in real estate, where both my parents were agents. They also dabbled in investing in real estate, rentals, flips, and construction. After college, I went right into getting my license in July of 1990. As a 23-year-old agent in an industry that looks nothing like today, I had to know more for my clients to choose me. There wasn't Zillow or social media to tell them how good I was. I had to win them over with knowledge. With knowledge comes confidence, and with confidence comes results.
Look at that. Look at that, Andy. Apple Valley, City of the Year. Do you know where that is?
The other question I have is they don't even produce apples anymore. So what's the deal?
There's no apple trees in Apple Valley. But Apple Valley is southern suburb, little east. A lot of people know probably about the Apple Valley Zoo. They've probably been there quite a bit, but I know the Real Estate Journal does it more based on commercial because there's not a lot of developing happening in Apple Valley because all the land, at least in that school district, is taken up, and so it's kind of more of like they're redoing stuff and creating bigger and better opportunities, but that in turn really does help the resale residential market. I just happen to have I listed and sold one there. I've got 3 other ones that I'm working on in Apple Valley to go onto the market, and that is something like that article that I would say, hey, this is what Apple Valley was. That was part of that city. I mean, a lot of their schools, I mean, it's going down. They're starting to team up with Burnsville, like to be able to put their sports together. I know their hockey team, their boys hockey team, it's Apple Valley and Burnsville together. I mean, Burnsville, not that long ago, was a state champ, and Apple Valley was huge in wrestling and basketball. That's where the Jones brothers went. And then all of a sudden, it's just kind of gone down. So hopefully that gives it a little boost. And it's also an area where people are starting to remodel and fix up things because the location is so great.
Oh yeah, and I cut through there, believe it or not, sometimes going to Farmington. And on the far east side of Apple Valley, there's still all those gravel pits. I don't know if that's Lakeville or Rosemount. I think there's kind of a rural, but there's a lot of opportunity out there still for growth, it looks like. And they did some really cool communities from a residential perspective. Back in the day, they did some really architecturally influenced housing developments, and I don't remember the names. I don't know if you do, Chris, or not. Like
Cobblestone, Spirit of Branching.
Right. So they're heavily themed, really nice developments, and I think that it makes a better community in the long run having neighborhoods with character. And then with character comes pride, and pride. People keep their properties nicer and.
Yeah, with a lot of things too, and I think that's what Apple Valley is doing from a commercial standpoint, because literally those other developments are Rosemount and Lakeville, but they're all intertwined. They're super close. Yeah, and Apple Valley's got 42 going right down the middle of it, and then Cedar Avenue is kind of crosses it. So it's a good destination or a way that all these people like you had to go to Farmington, you have to go through Apple Valley to get to those other areas. And so if they're creating this commercial fun zone, it definitely will help the communities around it as well.
Cool.
So,
yeah. Congratulations, Apple Valley.
Yep.
Way to go.
I haven't seen Champlin on that list. I don't know.
I haven't either.
Okay.
I don't think
it's right where Prior Lake is. I think they're real close to each other.
Yeah, when you don't do anything for years in a row, except for pave your streets, I think you're not stretching your growth limits. We actually did. I should
curbs though.
Strike that, Chris. We did just open up the River Project here in Champlin, where they bought and redeveloped. Now, part of me wants to criticize that they spent, I don't remember what it was, $26 million buying all these old apartment buildings to level them and then sell them to new apartment building companies for pennies on the dollar. So, and then in essence, you'd say we wasted tax dollars, but that's not the point. It looks beautiful. So these beautiful new apartments were rebuilt because I think the bigger plan wasn't happening. So they decided they had to sell some of it back. But now they have this nice community center that's down by the river. They have apparently a restaurant that's eventually going to be built down there. It's been talked about for about 15 years. It still hasn't broke ground, I don't think yet. But they redid that area. So when you come into Champlin, you're heading up to Anoka. It's really pretty. And the idea there was to put Champlin on the map and have people notice, what a nice town it is, connect the city of Champlin with the river. And they opened up right where I live, kind of off of Hayden Lake Road there. They also opened that up to a pond that's a tributary to the river. And so it looks like there's a lot of water up there now. And it's nice.
Yeah. Champlin is really nice. And that area that you're talking about is it's beautiful. I mean, when you go down kind of by that river, and I think sometimes what those cities will do is that if they're trying to create something, sometimes they have to get it to a point that it's going to get developers excited in which to do it. So
right. No, and that's exactly right. And so, when you have something like that you want to create, I think a lot of times, you get communities like Champlin that were designed to have stoplights so that people would stop and see the commerce and then support the commerce as they're on their way north. And that was like the original kind of idea there. But, there's a long history that goes back with Champlin. I mean, there was back when they were looking at Anoka as being one of the state capitals because of the rivers, the Rum River's there, the Mississippi's right there. You go downtown Anoka and some of the buildings are 100-year-old buildings or better, so it's pretty cool. There's quite a history there.
Well, I think what's also about Champlin is you have a Buffalo Wild Wings, and that's important, and a Pizza Ranch.
Yes.
Is it still there, Pizza Ranch?
And Clive's, duh. And
Culver's.
And, what's that?
Culver's.
There's a Culver's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you pretty much got everything you need.
Well, and there's also a Willie McCoy's.
Yeah.
There's also what do we call it? Hutties. There's also a couple of sushi shops up there.
How about golf courses?
We have an indoor golf course, Chris. We're kind of into technology now.
Hold on, Andy. Say this for the viral clip you're about to have. Okay, we're gonna play this or that, Champlin or Blaine. Give me the pros and cons of both, and then make a decision. This or that, Champlin or Blaine.
Oh, me. Oh, just gotcha. So I actually live in Champlin. I office in Blaine. I do office in both. But so you got a couple communities. Champlin was an older established area south of Anoka, and it's in the redevelopment phase, which is kind of fun. So you're seeing new businesses and new commercial sites getting redeveloped. They're redoing the riverfront. So it's exciting to be part of something that's being kind of recreated, regenerated, if you will, repurposed. You go to Blaine and everything in Blaine shiny brand new, or a lot of it is. There's lots of development, which is fun because property values continue to increase in value when you're around new construction. And easy access over in Blaine to the freeway systems there. So 35, is right there, and 65, the nightmare it is. Or 610 to 252, whatever it is. So there's lots of options there. What it comes down to, though, is it also, you have to have jobs, right? So to keep people in the community, or you're just basically, the evening community. So both areas have light manufacturing, a little bit. Champlin, probably a lot less than Blaine. Blaine has more sustainable earning jobs, but I think both are suburbs where commuters live predominantly. So
I'm a guy who's got 2 kids approaching high school level, looking for a new place to live. I've got about $800,000 in which to spend. Where should I go, Champlin or Blaine?
I can still build you a house in Blaine, and I'm not saying that to be funny. A lot of houses, big 2 stories nowadays, start around $650 to $750, and then if you add all the fun stuff, you get over $800 pretty quick. In Champlin, there's essentially nothing left to be built on. So you'd be buying an existing home, or you'd wander into our sister neighborhood there, Dayton, where there is thousands of opportunities over the next 30 years to be building. Because Dayton was one of those cities, if you ever looked at a map, it's kind of a triangle, and everybody developed all around them. And by choice, they wanted to be this 10-acre hobby farm community. And they really fought that for years. The council fought it. The mayors fought it. Now they have a proactive approach because I think the Met Council threw a lot of money at them to get some rooftops in there. So now all of a sudden they can repave their roads where they didn't have enough money to repave their roads. The city hall the furniture was worn out and they didn't have the money to fix it. So it's like that money helped them quite a bit to establish themselves as a city. So it's changing.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that, I got to be honest with you, I love both.
Oh boy, it looks like this is probably me. Prior Lake or Lakeville. All right. So we'll talk about, I mean, Andy kind of started talking about Lakeville earlier. It is sandwiched between Apple Valley and Farmington, and Lakeville is huge, and there's more development opportunity there than, I mean, they have a ton of opportunity left, and they've already done a bunch. They have split into 2 high schools now. They'll probably end up having 3 with the land they have. A lot of pricing in that 6 to 800, probably a lot more available there than there is in Prior Lake, just because that's where a lot of the building happened. I would say Prior Lake is probably a little more small town, hometown type place because of the lake and the windy roads. Usually when you get into Lakeville, it's a lot more like farm fields, and they can create the different areas a lot easier and maybe have straighter roads. We have a lake to deal with in Prior Lake, and so you kind of go around it. A little more mature probably in Prior Lake than some of the fields, but you do get places like Spirit of Branchin, and it's a traditional neighborhood design where the lots aren't huge, but it kind of incorporates, front porch living, shared parks, amenities, barns, and that kind of stuff. So Prior Lake, it's centered around the lake. Then Prior Lake is it's about 1/10 the size of Lake Minnetonka, split up into 2 upper and lower. Then there's also Spring Lake as well that's in Prior Lake, and it's a boating community. There's a restaurant, there's a marina on the lake. It's the values on the lake have gone out of this world. Very hard to get something under $1 million. There's places up to 5 million now, whereas probably 7 years ago the biggest sale was 2.7 million. So it's it's both. You both have good school systems.
Mm-hmm.
Sports are both very well as well. Academics, all that fun stuff. So a lot of golfing too in both places.
Hey,
How's
Andy,
that?
Good, but Andy, ask him a question like he asked you.
I don't remember what he asked me. I just kind of a blur.
No, I asked you if I have a family, and you.
Oh, Chris, I have
work.
a family with a $800,000 budget, and we like sports and we like water. Where should we live?
Oh wow, that's amazing that you should say that. You know what, Andy? Though you could, it's going to be really hard to get on the lake in Prior Lake at 800,000, but there is a lot of lake access homes as well. So that gives you the opportunity to get your boat on the lake and then being close to the lake and enjoy that. The cool thing about schools now too, it is school choice. You can kind of pick what you want and where you want to go. But I grew up in Prior Lake. I know it very well. Graduated from Prior Lake, and pretty much I would probably push you towards Prior Lake. How about that?
I like Prior Lake. I'll take it.
All right. Yeah. You've been there a few times. You got to come out again. I'm ready. My boat's in.
I do. I would like to see that. I'd like to see your project you're working on too.
Yeah, it's pretty close to being done. But I am living there, so that's good.
All right. Now you guys fight against each other. Who's gonna win, Prior Lake or Chandler?
Prior Lake.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if can we fight? Is there a fight? I don't think there is.
I don't know if there's enough pride there, but there's you have more of a lineage, a history, if you will, I think there, and so your roots go deeper than mine. I I'm kind of a Minneapolis, Brooklyn Park, then Champlain kid. I've been here for, almost 20 years now, but I love the community here. I just, not real thrilled with the way they just raise taxes, but, that where hasn't that happened? Everywhere. Yeah.
Everyone got hit on that. So I don't know, Nick, sometimes you got to learn when you have the win, you don't even have to say anything. So
yeah, Nick.
I'm taking it.
And sometimes, Nick, you just have to realize people don't understand reality. And somebody else won, and they're just so happy with their energy from the last speaker that they think they're a winner every time. And they might not be.
I need an appointment with Allie, quick. So. Wow.
That was the
best city to buy luxury real estate in Minnesota right now.
Yeah.
Baby. I'm gonna go with the west side. I'm going with Minnetonka, Wayzata. I think that your appreciation is fantastic. You get a lot more options because there's a lot of luxury real estate in that side.
Yeah.
So
I've been out in I was out there. I've been out there searching in Orono, and I've had a buyer recently that's in that $3 to $5 million range. And we are looking at some fun properties, and it is to me, like, their luxury properties are one, is that fancy materials to you? Is that great schools? Is that majestic, beautiful lawns? And I think what you get in like Orono, which I really enjoyed, was the rolling, beautiful landscape, right? And there's tons of other beautiful homes out there. So as you're driving around, it's just so complemented with the beautiful architecture and the natural, rolling. So that's one of my favorites currently.
Yeah. I think too, when you're showing out in that area, there's just a lot more of them. And so it doesn't feel like, it feels like you can really kind of wait to get what you want more so than if you were looking in maybe some other areas that have that high end, those high end homes, if that makes sense. It's kind of like, you might have to settle more for some luxury homes in some other areas versus over there, and whether or not what the schools are, but in any of those areas, from Orono to Spring Lake Park to,
Independence, whatever.
Haven to, they're all together.
Well, so. And what I think is that as I've, kind of seen a lot of real estate over the years, I've also really learned to appreciate like the really cool condo that's downtown that has all the cool amenities and features. And then yet at the same breath of air, you go up north and let's say you're up in the Brainerd area, and there's some spectacular homes up there that I'd love to live in, but I can't make my living in my head, right, that I make here up there. So then it becomes a lake home or a vacation home. But in reality, why would you not want to live at the lake? Why would you not want to live your fairy tale lifestyle? Why would you not want to live in the Caribbean? Why would you not? Honestly, it's like we a lot of times take it as a vacation, but you look at like your kid here, and he's making it a lifestyle.
Yeah, he rubs it in a lot too, without even knowing he's rubbing it in.
Really?
Yeah.
Like when he doesn't pay attention to us talking and then doesn't jump in to defend himself.
I'm working behind the scenes.
He's working behind the scene. He's
making us all get all dizzy, moving us around. That's funny. Right. No, I think it's an interesting concept, though. If it's true, you only live once. You might as well make sure that you're doing the best you can, and finding a property that, like earlier, Allie, our guest was talking about having good energy and having, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm kind of mechanical. I don't usually think about spirit. I don't think about energy. I walk into a place, I either like it or I don't. And I'm going to be really trying to dial that in because I think it's interesting. I don't know, there's a lot of people that just say there's no ghost, there's no whatever. But on the other hand, I've been in properties where I've had a kind of a funny feeling, but I don't know what that is. It's more of my instincts kicking in, which I call them instincts. I don't call them my spiritual whatevers. And I'm just saying, you know what, this isn't a good fit,
Yeah, but you're very good at reading people and understanding, and so you don't think you are, but you are. It's the best money I've ever spent is talking with her, and I didn't need that, you know. It was kind of like whatever, but it's very interesting, and it's very well good money spent.
Well,
Nick,
but real quick, hold on. I want to dig a little deeper with you. So when we're talking about that, for an example, like you know what you need to do to market properties, you know what you need to do to find resources, you know, flip stones per se that other people don't know how to flip. What do you get from somebody like her that actually gives you that blueprint to be more successful? What is that?
it allows me to really know what I want to do and how I want to be able to do it, and take that thing like, gosh, maybe I should do it. If I market it this way, I'll do it this way. It's more like, boom, yep, that's the way it's going to go, and you do it. It's even like she was talking about that little meditation thing, and actually I got it from Nick. Beginning is to be able to kind of what's the word, Nick? It's not meditation, but affirmation, and going in and having that confidence to be able to do it. And that is, I think, the biggest thing. I always had confidence, but I have like uber confidence now. Like I know, I know what I'm saying is right, and that I'm going to portray it to them, and I don't go into opportunities or deals like, hopefully I can get this. It's like, I know I'm going to get this, and move on. And it's even like the project I'm just finishing. I mean, I never would have done that project 3-4 years ago, ever. I would have, you know, oh gosh, it's too much money, I don't want to do it. But I'm like, you know what? No, I know if I do this and I put this to it, I can get this. And it's a lot of money, but it's like, I know I can do it. And so it's not a factor of, you know, maybe I can go this way or try this or whatever. It's not that at all. I know I can.
Sounds like she's almost harnessing your confidence and putting it together with your knowledge and putting all the pieces together, you know.
Yeah. And then I'll tell you, and initially she told me who the buyer was going to be of a huge business sale that I did. And it was more so that she kind of described who this person was. And at the time, this person wasn't really kind of getting back to me on stuff. I'd already engaged this person, but they weren't getting back to me. And she said, well, they're doing other things, blah, blah, blah. Just stick to it, you know, just whatever. Well, 3 months later, they end up buying the place. And it was crazy. And then I was talking about it one time, and it was an early morning phone call that we had with her. And she had said something about that person, and that person, right when I was on the phone, they called on the other line, and they had just driven by the office, and they saw my light on, and they was just saying, hey, I hadn't talked to you for a while. How you been? And so it was like, it was like crazy stuff. And that from that point on, it's like, boom, I'm with it. You know, I really am. And it's not hocus pocus. It's really not. It's very interesting. But anyways, best city to buy a starter home if you're not Nick and traveling around the seas and being able to be in all the pretty places of the world. What do you do? Where do you go right now, Andy, to buy a starter home? What do you suggest?
Coon Rapids.
What?
I love Coon Rapids. Coon Rapids has a lot of really nice houses. Has some still very affordable, you know, $300,000 to $400,000. We're not putting one on the market here. Pretty soon here in the high 300s, and it's a nice community. It's kind of reminds you going back in time, you know, the nice, I don't want to say starter homes because they're not necessarily all starter homes. They maybe started out, you know, 50 years ago or 40 years ago as a starter home, but now, you know, mom and dad put on the 4-season porch, or they added the extra stall to the garage, and some of these houses are pretty cool, and you can get a lot of house for the money. That's one of my current favorites. In the North Metro. Big Lake is always a popular one too, but it's a little farther out. So I always tell younger buyers, or I shouldn't say, it doesn't have to be young to be affordable, but or a starter home. You can always start later in life too. Do you work? Where do you go to church? Where do you know, what kind of school district you're looking for? And then within that little bubble is where we find you the best value. And so it's kind of like where's the best deal? I mean, we could run a spreadsheet for you and tell you where the best per square foot price is. And it's probably in some redevelopment neighborhoods, you know, where they're in need to be redeveloped. But I don't know. I think there's some really nice communities that are safe and close to things, and you can be fruitful and lucrative and have a beautiful opportunity to live.
Yeah, and I think, when you talk about a starter home, you immediately think of a price, a price point, and like that's a starter home for most people. Well, I kind of more think of, what is their lifestyle,
Right.
and where are they? What are they trying to do, and how are they moving on to the next step? And is it, hey, it's a starter home for me, but I'm eventually going to get married, and I'm going to be able to kind of go up and I work right downtown, and I don't want to be driving to, let's say, the Big Lake or to Coon Rapids.
Right.
So there might be areas kind of like a Hopkins. A Hopkins is a good spot. You might be able to find some little less expensive houses, but there's Hopkins is shot up in price as well. Hopkins is kind of in that St. Louis Park Edina, but those two are probably a little higher price.
Mhm.
So I don't know, but now we're talking. You're going to pay 400,000. Is that really a starter home? So
That's kind of a hard question to answer anymore nowadays, because what is by definition now the new version of a starter home?
right,
And and that number keeps changing as incomes have gone up, and as rates have gone up, everything keeps moving around. But I think I always think of like the young person that comes up to me and says, I'm looking for my first house. So to me, that's like their starter, right? Maybe they've had an apartment for a year or two and they save their money and they're ready to buy a place. And I'll tell you what, in today's world of where everybody thinks the future, there's no commuting and we're all going to work from home. Well, then it doesn't matter if you live in the inner loop as much as it, I mean, like they talked about for years. Think about Big Lake, and they have that commuter train that they spent, I don't know, billions of dollars on to run back and forth that runs half the time empty. With the Wi-Fi on board and everything else, we're like, hey, buy affordable housing up in like Big Lake, jump on the train, work downtown, and the whole time you're on the train, you can work on your computer or your, whatever, listen to music, look out the window, whatever.
the other thing that's
It's tough. It's tough because I don't think there was a lot of pieces at that time that lined up that maybe now don't line up for a lot of people. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but here's the other thing too, is that first-time home buyers have waited. They're waiting longer. And so now they're getting older, and now all of a sudden you have a couple. And I mean, I worked with two first-time home buyers last year, and we were looking between 500,000 and 600,000.
Yeah.
That's their first house. So really, what is a starter home? I think, trying to define that, I think is a really interesting thing with how the world has changed.
Yeah, with down payment assistance programs, I think it's if you haven't owned a home in 3 years or more, I think that will qualify your next purchase as a starter home again.
Well, the other thing too is from a starter home. I mean, now you need offices in that starter home. Before you didn't. You went to the office.
You need
Now
bigger place.
People aren't going. Yeah, so I mean, I'm working with this one couple, and they're young, just gonna get married, and they're looking at 5-bedroom homes. Like, what? Well, we both need an office.
I know.
Absolutely.
Those old Orrin Thompson back in like most of Brooklyn Center, I always think of Brooklyn Center Crystal, where they have the 3-bedroom or they have the 2-bedroom with the flex room right off the kitchen. And they're perfect for a young couple because they have their own bedroom. They have an extra bedroom for a kid if they have one. And then that flex room can be an office. And then usually there's a second person working from home. They can go downstairs and have that lower level bedroom, and then they're separated, and it works nice,
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we got here?
This last one, then we'll wrap it up. Appreciating home. Where's the best area to invest in Minnesota right now?
Wow. That's another really great question. Because I think you have to kind of feel out like maybe what's already appreciated and kind of keep appreciating, so, oh boy, I'll tell you what, I'm a lake guy. I think buying a home on a lake is the best way in which to be able to go. I mean, people who did that, really in 2019, I'd sold a house to someone in 2020, and in 2022, we got $500,000 more. And that's appreciation. That's pretty good appreciation for not really doing anything, just the market changing. So I'm kind of a lake guy, and from a lake guy, it's got to be a recreational lake. So you got to be able to have motor vehicles on it.
I've seen the same thing, Chris. I've seen, anything with water or anything with acreage. And acreage is also another big one that has really appreciated over the last few years. People that want more space. So, and as, things were where people were starting to feel unsafe in their suburban homes, and they say, hey, I don't like all the stuff going on downtown. I want to get out a little farther, put a lot of pressure on those acreage properties. Now that's kind of subsided a little bit now, but I mean, for a while there was a trend where we were seeing a lot of that, kind of situation.
Acreage. I was to talk about the three things. If you're on acreage, number one, number two, if you have a pole building, and number three, if you have a pool that goes with it. And then you add on some technologies, so you get fiber optic that's out there. You're on a tar road. All those things just keep going up and up and up. So
yeah, that's awesome. So did she predict we were going to close the show on time, or?
It's 11 o'clock right now, or 11 my time, 9 yours. But hey, we're doing really good right now on YouTube. In the last month, we had 6,000 views. So everyone hop on there, because I'm posting more shorts and stuff on the YouTube compared to Facebook and Instagram. But you guys are starting to get popular now. You've joined the
wait till we get on TikTok.
Media. I'm telling you.
Wait till Andy gets on TikTok.
Why don't you just put me on TikTok?
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Could probably do that. Just I'll take a little raise to do that. But anyways,
I would love to see that the ice cream truck one go on TikTok. I think that would hit.
I've gotten a lot of feedback from that one.
Yeah, you should. It was really, because it was, I don't know, it was spur of the moment, but yet it was funny. So
it was spur of the moment. It was Andy sitting outside working on the yard, hearing the ice cream truck and saying, I got to run in and get my wallet. And I said, you better record this.
Yeah. All right.
All right, guys. Hey, click the link. That's where our YouTube is. That's where you can write us reviews on iTunes, Spotify. Everything's there. Give us a thumbs up. Send us in any questions you have. See you next week. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Real Estate Radio Hour. Don't forget to visit our website, realestateradiohour.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast listening app. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or sharing us with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, Twin Cities.